Set against the wintry backdrop of a remote mountain town, We Kill Them All follows Megan Waynes, a young woman navigating a strained life while dealing with her complex past. At the center of the story is her father Lee Hughes, a reclusive ex-con with a checkered history involving violent crime, abandonment and a mysterious missing fortune. The film opens with Megan hosting a casual Christmas party with friends and co-workers, including her secret partner Lainey. Despite putting on a cheerful front, Megan is clearly unsettled, dealing with the financial pressures of homeownership and the emotional baggage surrounding her estranged father. Meanwhile, Lee, holed up in a secluded cabin in the mountains, prepares for a tense visit from his daughter while dodging phone calls and battling health issues, most notably terminal cancer. Unbeknownst to Megan, a dangerous group of men is hunting Lee. Led by a ruthless figure named Jimmy, they are determined to recover a stolen fortune from a Longitude bank heist. Tension escalates when they track Lee to his remote hideaway. These men, each hardened by years of criminal activity, harbor personal grudges, especially Jimmy, who believes Lee betrayed him years ago, resulting in his near death and the loss of their stolen money. Meanwhile, Megan and Lainey take a weekend trip up to the mountain lodge, both unaware of the danger ahead. Their bond is tested by Megan's inner conflict, torn between wanting to reconnect with her father and being afraid of the man he once was. Through quiet reflection, Megan recalls snippets of her childhood, happier memories of her parents dancing, and the bond she once shared with her dad, who nicknamed her Magpie. These recollections soften her resentment, pushing her toward reconciliation. At the cabin, Lee is ambushed by Jimmy and his crew. What follows is a brutal confrontation where old grievances resurface. Jimmy accuses Lee of stealing the money and disappearing, leading to Jimmy's capture and torture years ago. Lee insists he waited as planned, but Jimmy never showed. The truth remains murky, but one thing is clear: the money has never been recovered and Jimmy will stop at nothing to get it. Jimmy's threats escalate when he discovers Megan's existence. He uses her as leverage, threatening to harm her unless Lee reveals the location of the missing cash. In a harrowing interrogation, Lee, physically frail and emotionally raw, refuses to divulge the information, protecting his daughter at all costs. He endures physical abuse and mocking references to Megan's late mother Jenny, who was once deeply religious and likely the family's moral compass. Despite his failing health and the pressure mounting, Lee defies his captors. When Jimmy brings up Lee's cancer, hoping it will make him surrender, Lee instead finds strength in defiance. He protects Megan and refuses to give up the location of the money. As he collapses from the pain and illness, it's clear that his silence may be his final act of redemption. As Megan and Lainey unknowingly move closer to danger, We Kill Them All paints a grim picture of how the past, especially one steeped in violence and betrayal, can echo into the present. The film balances suspense with emotional weight, exploring themes of forgiveness, legacy, and the cost of loyalty. At its heart, it is a story of a daughter trying to reconcile who her father was with who he is now, while a violent reckoning looms in the icy wilderness. We Kill Them All is a gritty thriller set in a remote snow-covered mountain resort, centering on Megan Waynes, a young woman reluctantly reconnecting with her estranged and criminally notorious father Lee Hughes. Once a ruthless outlaw involved in armed robberies, Lee now works a quiet contract job staging a foreclosed mountain resort in hopes of earning back some dignity before cancer claims him. But his past sins and stolen money have returned to haunt him. Megan, accompanied by her girlfriend Lainey, arrives at the resort for what is meant to be a peaceful weekend. She hasn't seen her father in years and harbors deep resentment for his violent past and abandonment. However, signs of Lee's effort to make amends are evident in the cozy preparations he's made for their stay: lavender bath salts, candles, and wine. The warmth of these gestures sparks mixed feelings in Megan, who begins to question the image of the man she thought she knew. But their reunion is cut short before it can begin. Unbeknownst to Megan, a gang of violent criminals led by Lee's old partner Jimmy has descended on the resort to recover a missing $2 million from a decades-old heist. They believe Lee stole the money and disappeared, leaving Jimmy to be captured and nearly killed. Now free and bent on revenge, Jimmy has tracked Lee down, hoping to torture the truth and the cash out of him. By the time Megan and Lainey arrive, the resort has already been infiltrated. Jimmy and his henchmen, brutal Roman and unstable Cody, have subdued Lee, who resists giving up the money's location. In retaliation, Jimmy murders him, delivering a fatal blow just before Megan unknowingly walks into danger. Initially greeted by the men under the pretense of being security, Megan and Lainey soon realize something is wrong. Their suspicions are confirmed when Jimmy reveals he's been expecting them. The tone quickly turns hostile, with the two women tied up, taunted, and threatened as Jimmy attempts to extract any information Megan might have about the stolen money. In a tense and emotionally charged standoff, Jimmy mocks Megan's sexuality, disrespects her dead parents, and gleefully claims Lee's death was merciful. Despite his threats and manipulation, Megan remains adamant she knows nothing about the money. As the night descends into chaos, Jimmy's grip on his own crew begins to falter. Roman shows signs of unease, while Cody, the weakest link, is stabbed by Lainey during a brief moment of distraction. Taking advantage of the opening, Megan and Lainey escape and begin a frantic chase through the snow-blanketed resort. Hunted by the remaining men, they break into empty cabins, search for weapons, and strategize their survival. Their love for each other and sheer will to survive fuel their determination. Lainey, once hesitant, shows immense courage, stabbing Cody and helping Megan fight their way free. Meanwhile, a clueless real estate agent named Jackie arrives to inspect the property, adding more complications. Jimmy feigns normalcy to avoid suspicion, but the situation spirals further when the women take refuge upstairs, barricading themselves in. The story centers on Megan and Lane, two women who find themselves trapped in a remote mountain resort during a brutal snowstorm. The resort is controlled by a ruthless gang led by a violent man named Jimmy and his right-hand Cody. Megan is the daughter of Lee, a man with a shady past and ties to dangerous people, which drags her and Lane into a deadly game of survival. Early on, Megan and Lane are hunted through the snow-covered woods by the gang. The captors relentlessly pursue them, intent on capturing and punishing Megan for reasons tied to her father's criminal history. The women try to hide and fight back, but the gang's brutality is overwhelming, with harrowing scenes of violence and intimidation illustrating just how ruthless their pursuers are. Megan and Lane's relationship is tested throughout the ordeal, but they also show resilience and resourcefulness. Lane helps Megan navigate the hostile environment and they work together to outsmart their captors. They discover that the gang is searching for something valuable, cash or treasure that Megan's father supposedly hid somewhere in the resort. As the situation worsens, Megan and Lane separate to increase their chances of survival and to retrieve critical items. Megan aims to find a landline to call for help while Lane tries to recover pills from their car, possibly to aid or protect them. Their plan is fraught with danger as the gang closes in. Jimmy, the gang leader, exhibits a terrifying blend of sadism and control. He torments Megan and Lane psychologically and physically, using intimidation and violence to try to break them. At one point, he forces Lane to swallow a slow-dissolving capsule of poison, hoping to pressure Megan into cooperating. The ticking clock of the poison adds intense urgency to their struggle. Despite the overwhelming odds, Megan and Lane fight back fiercely. There are tense moments of hand-to-hand combat, clever improvisation, and narrow escapes. The pair show courage and determination, refusing to surrender even when facing death. A significant revelation comes when Megan finds a hidden stash of money left by her father, marked by a clue involving a magpie, a reference to a childhood treasure hunt with her dad. This discovery provides a bittersweet moment of closure as Megan reflects on her complicated relationship with her father, who seemed to want to make amends before his past caught up with him. The story concludes with Megan and Lane escaping the deadly clutches of the gang. They survive the ordeal and decide to start anew, symbolized by their toast to new beginnings in their own place away from the shadows of the past. They acknowledge the trauma they endured but also embrace hope for a peaceful future together. The final scene is a New Year's celebration where Megan and Lane, now safe, share a quiet moment of happiness and relief with friends, suggesting that despite the horrors they faced, love and resilience prevail. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.